Good afternoon, everyone. We continue our study in the book of Joshua. Now, in the last chapter that when we covered it, it was an introduction to the allotment of the land. Today, in chapter 15, as we begin, it is with regards to the tribe of the children of Judah. Now, the idea of lot here really is an allotment. Okay, by drawing lots. And this is using the Urim and Thummim. The stones where the high priest will be using to seek God's answers to certain things. And so with this, the first of the tribes to get land allocated. Now understand this. When it's allocated, it is not just step in to get the land, but they're going in to conquer the land. God never gave them the land and wrapped it up in a bowl so that they can unwrap the wrapping papers. The idea here very much is talking about God telling them this is the boundary of the land that he wants to give to the tribe of Judah. And it's according to their families, and the families are according to their fathers. We all must be aware that the Hebrew people is an Oriental people, very similar to the Chinese, such that the inheritance is all by the men, their sons. And so by their fathers in this case, those who were 20 years and above. The description comes with a lot of details. Unfortunately, much of the details with regards to modern geography is not clear at all. And so we have a general idea of how the land was apportioned and the specific boundaries so that there will be no intertribal dispute. That is how detailed the borders are to be defined. So it starts at the border of Edom in the wilderness of Sin in the south. That would be the extreme southern boundary. And the southern border actually begins on the shore of the Salt Sea. This location is also today known as the Dead Sea. In those days, it's salty, but today it is dead because it has too much salt. So it's from the Dead Sea or the Salt Sea, and it goes southward. When it goes southward, it will go to the ascent of Akravim. Now, this word Akravim is, in other words, called the Scorpion Pass. Now, these are all old locations which we don't have an idea, but they are going down south and it's passing through some hills and along to Zin, and then also going up on the south side of Kadesh Barnea. Kadesh Barnea, passing along to Hezron, up to Adar, and around to Karkaa. Now, all of these basically tell us the southern side of Judah. From there, it passed toward Asmon and went out to the brook of Egypt. Now, this idea of the brook of Egypt, this would be the Wadi. Wadi, let's see, Wadi Mitzrayim. And so the river or this torrent is known with an Egyptian name. And the border ended at the sea, and this shall be your southern border. Now, a little bit about the description. I could try to draw it out from you. If this was the Dead Sea, and this would be the border, just roughly, so that you know, we've been talking about this border here, the southern border, and then it moves up to this part, which is the sea. And this little piece here could be the Wadi of Egypt. But this would be the southern part of the Judah boundary. So it's just basically trying to describe the southern tip of the borders of Judah. Now we look at the east border. Now the east border, as you can see, it will be the Jordan and the Salt Sea. So the east border was the Salt Sea as far as the mouth of the Jordan. What does that mean? It means that if this was the Salt Sea and this is the Jordan, we are talking about this point here. This is the mouth of the Jordan. Then the border on the northern quarter began at the bay of the sea at the mouth of the Jordan. The border went up to Beth Hogla and passed north of Beth Arava. And the border went up to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuven. Then the border went up towards Dever from the valley of Achor. Now we just scroll this up a little bit. And it turned toward Gilgal, which is before the ascent of Adumim, which is on the south side of the valley. The border continued toward the waters of En Shemesh and ended at En Rogel. And the border went up by the valley of the son of Hinnom to the southern slope of the Jebusite city, which is Jerusalem. So remember, in 2 Samuel chapter 5, David conquered the Jebusite stronghold and he named it Jerusalem. The border went up to the top of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom to the west, at the end of the valley of Rephaim northward. Then the border went around from the top of the hill to the fountain of water at Nephtoah, extended to the cities of Mount Ephron. The border went around to Baalah, which is Kiryat Yearim. Kiryat Yearim. In 1 Samuel, we would see that would be the final resting place of the Ark of the Covenant after they lost it at Shiloh to the Philistines. It came to rest in Kiryat Yearim for 20 years. Then the border turned westward from Baalah to Mount Seir, passed along to the side of Mount Yearim on the north, went down to Beth Shemesh, passed on to Timnah. And the border went out to the side of Ekron northward. Then the border went around to Shikron, past Mount Baalah, extended to Yaphniel. The border ended at the sea. The west border was the coastline of the Great Sea. This is the boundary of the children of Judah all around according to their families. Now, if you recall, we have the Jordan, the Dead Sea, and then we have the Gulf of Aqaba. Then we have this boundary. So what we can see is that we talked about the Salt Sea here, all the way down, and then all the way up. In the second portion that we read, it says that it went up a little bit, went to Gilgal and all those. Basically, what we're saying is that There is a location here, and location here is Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the boundary, but it's not a straight line. So by the way that they describe the boundary, it goes up and down, left and right. And basically, we get the final boundary, which is the coast. And here we get Judah. This is important for us to recall. And the other location which we will complete by reading this chapter is the place called Hebron. Hebron is somewhere here. It's also called Kiryat Arva, which is the city of four. Kiryat actually means city. And so Jerusalem and Hebron would be the two major cities of interest in our chapter today. Now, verse 13. In verse 13, the narrative turns its attention to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. He gave a share among the children of Judah. So as I drawn you that little location, the location which is given to Caleb, according to the commandment of the Lord to Joshua, would be Kiryat Arva, which is Hebron. Arva was the father of Anak. So that you know that this land, this city of Hebron is inside the territory of Judah, and it's down south from Jerusalem, from Jerusalem. Caleb drove out the three sons of Anak from there, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the children of Anak. Then he went up from there to the inhabitants of Deber, which was also called Kiryat Sefer. Now, the thing is, this area is actually next to each other around Hebron. So when we have Hebron, this would be the surrounding area of Hebron. Then Caleb said, "He who attacks Kiryat Sefer and takes it to him, I will give Achsah, my daughter, as his wife." So Othniel, the son of Kenaz, and this idea of Kenaz is this. Caleb's mother, it appears to have remarried Kenaz. So Othniel is a half brother of Caleb. The brother of Caleb, as is seen here, is a half brother, took it and he gave him Achsah, his daughter, as wife. Now it was so, and she came to him and she persuaded him to ask her father for a field. Who is the father? Caleb. She dismounted from her donkey, and Caleb said to her, "What do you wish?" She answered, "Give me a blessing. Since you have given me the land in the south, give me also springs of water." And so he gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. What does that mean? Is that the land that was given to Achsah is in the south, which is more desert area. And from Hebron southwards, we are getting desert area. And Caleb actually gave the wells or the springs of water. Now, what are springs of water? This is important for us to realize that in Israel, the land has many springs. Now, the idea of springs, or it's called gula, it is little ponds, I think. You can say little ponds, and water comes up from underneath. And so these would be little bowls of water, so to speak. But in English, we do call them springs, right? But they are not in the true word of the spring, which is the eye of the river. So this would be eye in the ground, coming up from the ground, but it doesn't spawn into a river. It is just spawning into a spring of water. This is what it means in verse 19. And Caleb gave the daughter, and you notice the expression of giving to the daughter is ahav. And in Hebrew, that means love. Love in Hebrew, ahav, means to give. And so Caleb gave to Achsah, the daughter, a husband in the form of Othniel, and also springs of water so that they have an ability to plant. Now we come back to Judah. One of the things that you find about this set of cities that we are talking about, in some cases, they may be also duplicating, say, Simeon, when they were given Simeon cities that were already in the territory of Judah. There could be names that would reflect two names to a single town. And so do not just read the English and think that, oh, how is it that there are many more cities in the names than there were a summation of cities? That's because of the way that it is counted. And so this is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Judah, according to the families now. Is this a repeat? Yes. First, the first portion gives the boundaries. And in verse 21, all the way down to the end, talks about the tribes and the cities. So that when the inheritance or the allotment came to the families were named with a city. So the tribe of the children of Israel, Judah, toward the border of Edom in the south, there was Kavziel. So we have Eder and Yagor, Kina, Dimona, Adada, Kadesh, Hadzor, Itnan, Zif, Telem, Bealot, Hadzor, Hadattah, Kiriot, Hedzron, which is Hadzor, Amam, Shema, Molada, Hadza, Gada, Heshmon, Bet Pelet, Hadza, Shu'al, Be'er Sheva, this is down south, Bis Yotja, Ba'ala, Ihim, Ezem, El Tolat, Chetzil, Horma, Ziklag. Those of you who have followed the studies of 1 Samuel, you find some of these cities were Philistine cities. Matmana, Sansana, La Baot, Shilhim, Ain, Rimmon. All the cities are 29 with their villages. So it will be everything there. Now understand this. Cities walled are called cities. Villages are huts. Not wall. These are villages, not walled. So we must understand the terminology. And so the cities were given together with their villages means that the walled cities plus all of these were their inheritance by the tribes of Judah. Verse 33, in the lowland, Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zanoah, En-Ganim, Tapua, Enam, Yamut, Adulam, Soko, Azekah, Sharaim, Adithaim, Gedera, Gederotaim, 14 cities with their villages. So think of it, when it was given out, cities and villages, these were already there. Zenan, Hadashah, Migdal Gad, Delian, Mitzpah, which we read a lot in 1 Samuel, Yoktiel, Lachish as well in 1 Samuel, Botska, Eglon as well, another Philistine town. Gabon, Lahmas, Kitlish, Gederoth, Bet Gadon, or another Philistine town, Naamah, and Makkedah, 16 cities with their villages. Continuing on the reading, Lifna, we also see another one of these Philistines town, Ether, Ashan, Yipta, Ashna, Nedzib, Keilah, Achzib, and Marashah, 9 cities with their villages. Ekron, it's also a Philistine town. From Ekron to the sea, near Ashdod, another Philistine town with their villages. Ashdod with its towns and villages. Gaza, another Philistine town and villages. As far as the brook of Egypt or Wadi Mizraim and the Great Sea with its coastline. So you find that the lowland would be in the coastal area where the Philistines used to occupy. They have to go in and fight the Philistines for it. Now that they have obtained it, all these names are brought up in the mountain country that would be further in, closer towards the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea. Shamir, Yatir, Soko, Dana, Kiryat Sana, which is Deber, Anaf, Eshtemoa, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Gilo, 11 cities with their villages. Verse 52, Araf, Dumar, Eshian, Yanum, Bet Tapuah, Afekah, Humta. Now notice this, Kiryat Arba, which is Hebron, Zior, that would be a Caliph town. Zior, 9 cities with their villages. Maon, Carmel, Ziv, Yuta, Yesreel, Yokdiam, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, which is in the south, 10 cities and their villages. Halhul, Bet Zur, Gedor, Ma'arat, Bet Anot, and El Tekon, 6 cities with their villages. Kiryat Baal, which is Kiryat Yarim, slightly, how we say, slightly south of Jerusalem in the southwest. And Rabbah, 2 cities with their villages. In the wilderness, Bet Arava, Midin, Sakaka, Nifshan, the city of salt. And then notice these are all by the seaside, which is the Dead Sea, by the way, and Gadi, 6 cities with their villages. We complete our reading of this book in verse 63. What we have done is to go through the towns, the borders of Caleb, of Judah, and how they allocated the towns to the people, the towns and cities, walled towns, which they have conquered. And 63 would be the last of the description for Judah. In verse 63, we learned something. As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem or Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out. And this could not have means no permission. And this was an agreement with Abraham, and the Jebusites dwelt with the children of Judah at Jerusalem to this day. So you think of Jerusalem as a big walled city. There was a place inside where the Jebusites had an agreement. And that's the only place where the Jebusites lived amidst Judah. And with this, we come to the end of our session today. We have covered a lot of cities which we cannot deal with much detail because many of the cities are unknown in today's geography. But what is important in today's reading is that the details concerning the allotment of land seems to be extremely detailed. It gives the east, the south, the west, the north boundary, the name of the cities, the villages, the towns that they have conquered in that area, and what to do with them. And so, what is important is that here nobody will dispute. They won't dispute amongst themselves, and they won't dispute across the border. That's important because north of Jerusalem will be the children of Ephraim, which we will read next week. And with this, we come to the end of our session today.